Okay, so we did a couple of exercises so that you could understand more the process of modeling and also some more techniques than what we just saw in theory. But before we go any further, um, I would like to do one episode on something that is maybe not considered as modeling, but is actually necessary, at least to me, to do some stuff professionally. So here we will see how to organize a project, and by that I mean how to put everything in order within the file, but also making sure that if you go back to the project like 2 months later, you will not be lost and you know exactly what is where, how things are done, and yeah, just keeping things clean and tidy to step up and become more professional in what we do. And so most of the magic of what we'll do here will happen in the outliner. And yeah, let's just jump into that and see a few stuff. So the first thing I want to talk about here is the collections. So you can think of collections as layers in 2D, but with the same mechanic as a folder in your computer. So a collection, as you can see here, can contain meshes, cameras, empty, or any other object, but it can also contain other collections, which is super useful to create a proper and complex hierarchy, especially when you have a lot of elements and objects that need to be kind of grouped. So as you can imagine, there is a multiple ways to create a collection. Uh, One is to press here new collection, but you can also just do right click in the outliner and do new collection. As you can see, this folder appears here, and you can then drag and drop stuff to put it inside. You can put collection within other collection. You can double click to rename it, or also press F2. But the interesting thing with collection is that once you have some object inside of these, you can actually choose a lot of visibility options. So if you go up there, like in the top right corner, you have this filter menu in which you can add what they call restriction toggles. So basically, the first one will be if the collection or the object or anything, but here the collection will be activated or not within the viewport. Then if you can select it or not, this one is pretty useful, so let's activate it. This is just like hide, like hidden or not. This one is it present in the viewport? It's kind of the same as hide, but if you unhide, it doesn't show if it's not in the viewport. This is to say like my object or my collection is visible in renders or not. This will be especially useful when you have booleans and stuff you don't want to show. And this is for hold out in the renders again, and indirect only is for when you do renders and you just want a specific kind of light ray to work with these. Um, the other options are more about the outliner itself, but what we want here is mainly to yeah, activate those three buttons that I clicked on, so that then you can choose some more stuff on what is visible, what is not, and what is pickable and what is not. And this is super useful, and we will see that later on. But at least you know that it exists. Um, just before we jump on organizing things and setting up a project, I would like to show you that there is another way to assign an object to a collection, another way that just drag and drop, and it's by going in the viewport and clicking on the object. Then if you do M, but this time in object mode, not in edit mode, you can have the menu, the move menu, move to collection, and then you can choose in which collection you want to put it. You can also create new collections on the flight, like this, new collection, and then your object will be automatically assigned to this new collection. You can also create new collection within collection if this one already contains different collections. So it's pretty useful, and with this move to collection menu, you can do quite a lot directly in the viewport, which is good because you don't have to just go in the outliner and move things around. And I think it's pretty useful and pretty efficient that way. Personally, I use collections a lot, especially to manage versions, because you can easily create version 1, and let's say you have another cube that is way better, obviously. This will probably go into version 2, and then you can just disable the version 1 and just go back to it if you need. So it's really good to manage everything. And yeah, the next part of this episode, I would like to show you my way of organizing a project, because after doing quite a few projects, I figured out that there are some redundant mechanics that I always use. So let's see that together, and let's prepare the next modeling project, the next modeling exercise. So yeah, exciting stuff. Let's do that. So let's go. File organization. I think it's really important. File organization and a naming system. You really need one, um, because especially when you have like a review with a manager or anyone, and it becomes super stressful. You're happy to have something well organized, because then you don't have to think about where is what and what is currently hidden, and that could pop up if you unhide something because you just want to show one part, and then it can get really fuzzy. And it's easier if you sort everything out and you name everything, and then you just don't have to think about that, because organization is just the best way to remove stress and lost files and lost parts. So to me, file organization, the first thing I notice is that I always have objects that I don't need, but I don't want to delete either, because I probably won't need them at all and they are wrong. But sometimes I want to compare what is wrong to what I tried to do better. So for that, I will create a junk collection. Okay, so this one I will disable. I just add the other filters. I will disable, but it doesn't mean that I won't be able to send my cube to the junk collection, which is perfect. Also, sometimes I like to create another one that is kind of similar, which I call backup. And this is for the files that I am, or for the parts that I'm modifying, but I know that maybe what I'm doing is not right, and then I would need to go back to uh, this version that was working. So yeah, I don't always do it, but most of the time I prefer to have the backup collection, even though it can be empty. This one you disable as well. And then when I want to work with specific images or sketches or any reference, I actually create a reference collection, which I call ref. And usually I put it above junk and backup, because those are the one I want in the end of my outliner. I don't really care about those, so let's just put them there. And so we will actually fill this ref collection with the content of our next project, which will be modeling the AirPod Max from Apple. So let's just find out what we have in the folder. We have a few images of different parts or different views of the AirPod. Some more specific ones. You already know how we will do that. And we have like plain front and side views, which will be perfect for what we want to do, as well as dimensions. This time we will do things right and we will use dimensions. So let's go back to Blender and let's add those images. So the first thing you need to do if you want to add an image as a reference is to go in the view, the specific view, or to orthographic view, because when you will add the image, it will be perpendicular to your view. So if you're like this, it will be in a weird rotation. So let's just go in front view, as you can see here, with 1. Let's hide the cube for now. And you have two ways of adding an image. Whether you do Shift A and you go in image reference, and then you will get this. Then you will get this explorer, and you can get the images you want. Or you can just take your folder and just drag and drop like this in the viewport, and then you can move your image around. So it's basically you have to choose the explorer you prefer. In this case, I knew that I had this window open, so it was just easier to go with the explorer. But most of the time I do it with the Shift A because, yeah, it's easier. I always have my hands around this shortcut, so it's easier. First thing we want to do when we import an image is to rename it, because we don't want to be lost with something called empty. This doesn't have any sense. You can rename it from the outliner, or if you are within the viewport, you can just, once it's selected, you can do F2 up there, and then you can call it what you want. In this case, the naming system I like to use is to start with lowercase ref, and then underscore, and front view. This is important to have a naming system, because in some editors you will have to specify an object or something, but you won't have the possibility to actually pick it, or it would be more complicated than anything. So then you're really happy that you have a specific name for it. So the second step of that is to, let's hide it for now, and let's get back our cube. And we will actually use this cube as a box with the dimension of the AirPod, so that we can know in this scene how big they will be. So let's just go in wireframe mode, because we just want the outline for now. Let's bring this side menu here. You can also use this one, but if you're in maximized window, you probably want to use the simple one here. And as you can see, we have dimensions, and 2 meters is again quite big for headphones. So let's just see what we have here, and we can see that we have the dimension in inches, which we could use, as you know, but we also have them in millimeters, which is absolutely perfect. So we know it's 187.3 for the height and 168.6 for the width. So let's just do that. 1873, oops, millimeter, and 168.6 millimeter again. Oops, this was the wrong axis. It's no problem, just do Control C, Control V. And for the depth, I know that it's 83.4 millimeters. Okay, perfect. So this box corresponds to the size of the AirPods. So now that we have that, we can actually show the reference image and just scale it down and move it until it fits perfectly in our reference. So you have to keep in mind that most of the images of reference you will get are not exactly right, because they have some perspective to them. So sometimes you have to approximate the size, but this one seemed to be fitting quite perfectly. So yeah, good enough. Perfect. And what we want to do is also to go in side view and to bring the side view. Yep. Same here. We start by renaming it ref.sideView, and then we scale it down. You can see here already that it's not rematching, but we know that those are the extreme points of the width, so we probably have to scale it up a bit. And to me, this is a matter of the rotation of these elements, but yeah, we will try to use that. Okay, and so here we have to see two things. Is that it's quite not convenient at all to have them there, but since you will actually see them in just two axes, then the third one doesn't matter. So it means that you can actually push in the perpendicular axis, and this will not change anything to front or side view, and then your object can be in the middle. But also, if you go there, you can actually enable transparency in this specific menu in the property panel, and you can lower transparency. And this would be way better, because otherwise it just burns your eyes with the white, which I hate. Also, you can do front, which will mean that the object will always appear in front of everything else. For example, if we go to shaded view again, even though there is the cube in front, you can still see what is behind. And whenever you will hide the overlays, you won't see the images anymore. So perfect. But this cube will be actually useful even later on when we will start to model things. But we won't want to have it shaded all the time. And there is actually a trick for that. And it's if you go here in the object properties and you go in viewport display, then the display as can be changed from textured to wire. And then you will always have just this box, and we will be able to build some geometry inside of there without the box being in the way for the optimal visibility. Also, one thing is that this box, being helpful as a reference, has now to go to the reference collection. So let's just do m ref, and let's call it ref cube or box. I usually call it box because I don't know, I know that whenever there's something called box, it's just the dimensions of what I want to show. And there is no real reason why we would select any of these anymore, because we don't need to move them. So we just have to make the whole collection not selectable anymore. And then whatever you do, this object will be not possible to grab, which is a good thing. Otherwise it can interfere with your work, and we basically don't want that. Also, it doesn't mean that you cannot select them from there. So it means that you can still change the transparency, for example, of each individual object, but only if you click on it in the outliner. So this looks pretty good to me. We have a good thing to start. Can also disable the side view, for example, for now, because we will first work with the front view. and we can call this collection with camera and light will be viz, because it's visualization. Oops, sorry, QWERTY. And we will create another collection which you can call work or work in progress. I usually call it work. I like to just put super simple small words. These will go there. And in work we will put all the actual objects, all the modeling that we will do. Also in this collection system, you have to keep in mind that the active idea is still there. So whenever you click on a collection, you give it some kind of surrounding, like around the icon, and this means that if you add an object, it will go in this specific collection. So let's add Suzanne, for example. She's in work, but if I click on Viz and I add a cone, then it will be in Viz. Just something that you have to keep in mind. If you add an object, it will go in the collection that is set as active. Okay, perfect. We just want to change the clipping here because we know that it will be a problem. And I think we have something quite good for our project to start. Last thing we want to do before we start to model is actually to save the file at least once with all our good settings and everything prepared. So for that, you can just do a Control S. As you can see here, you have Control S to save, Shift Control S to save as. But if it's not saved at first, you can just save it as with the first Control S. Sorry, it's a bit messy. And this time we don't want to have just a simple name, and I encourage you to have a kind of a good naming system even for that. So here we will go for something like OD. I usually put the whole project or the whole bigger scheme of the thing first, and then AirPods Max. Excuse me, again, SRT QWERTY translation. And then what I usually do is put the date so that I know when I created the file, which can be super useful. So in this case 2021, and we are in February, and it's the 40th. And the good thing about that is that later on, if you do incremental saves, then you can just press plus if you want to put 15. Basically, Blender will take the last number from the right and increment or decrement it if you press plus or minus. And this also works with your keyboard, so you can add or remove a value in there, which is super useful when you just you just want to save one more version. You just do like plus save, and that's it. So yeah, let's save it once and let's conclude before we actually model this thing. Conclusion. Well, here you learn how to use the collections and actually what are the collections. You know how to organize a file to have everything you need. And we will see later on that we may need other things to organize it even better, but this will come along the way. But at least here we have a naming system for the references, and we will try to keep this file as clean as we can, so that whenever you come back to it, you will see that everything will be organized and it won't be a struggle to know why you did what or where is what. So perfect. Let's see how the project goes.